Rachel Holt for NESN.com. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of The Dish. The Boston Red Sox continue their winning ways. We'll take a look at why the team is so successful right now. Around the league, Giancarlo Stanton, yeah, this guy is dominant. Can he keep it up? And do you need fantasy baseball waiver wire advice? Well, you came to the right place. All that and much more on this episode of The Dish. And now we're going to discuss some MLB hot topics, and we picked the perfect person to do this with, the outspoken Ricky Doyle. Ricky, thanks so much. Yes, outspoken. Wow. You say anything you want to say, and we love that about you.
I intend to do just that.
I wish you could hear the conversations we have around the newsroom, but we're going to have to settle for his takes on what's going around MLB. So first take I want you to tell us about here. Sure. Bryce Harper suffered a significant bone bruise on his left knee, but an MRI revealed no structural damage. So how does this injury impact the Nationals moving forward?
Yeah, they really dodged a bullet there, because if you go back and you watch the film of that, it is the most awkward fall I've ever seen. Like, his body, he looked like a pogo stick. He like foot stuck in the ground, shot up in the air. He's all over the place. But I mean, it seems like he's going to be all right, or at least back in time for the playoffs. I mean, that's the hope for the Nationals, obviously. And it really doesn't make too much of a difference the rest of the regular season, because they're up by about 700 games in that division. So. I don't know. I think I could see this maybe being an issue in the playoffs, though, if they don't, if he doesn't come back in time to get, ramped up to speed. I mean, if you're going to get back at Bryce Harper who's in, mid-February form as opposed to peak form, that could be an issue in the playoffs. But I don't know. I guess you're just going to have to see how he fares when he comes back. But I'm not overly concerned about it right now.
Well, this guy is obviously the face of baseball, or one of the faces of baseball at this point. Do you kind of blame Major League Baseball, given that at the time he was injured, there was a lengthy rain delay. Yeah. There was some rain on the bases.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been playing. I mean, at that point, there's no way they should have started that game. They already had the doubleheader lined up for Sunday with the game being rained out Friday. You get a 3-hour rain delay. So that base is slick. I'm surprised more injuries don't happen on the bases, to be honest with you. It's kind of a weird surface. It's pretty elevated. I know Scott Boras' agent was saying, he kind of compared it to in the NBA when a guy hits the floor and you go out and you kind of got to mop up the sweat. You kind of got to do that when it comes to the wet bases. So, yeah, they shouldn't have been playing that game first and foremost. And if you are, you got to make sure those bases aren't slick. Otherwise, you're going to run into an issue like that. And like you said, he is the face of baseball, so that's a guy you can, ill afford to lose if you're Major League Baseball.
Okay, let's talk about another stud around the league, Giancarlo Stanton. Now, this is a guy who has been just absolutely crushing it. Can anyone out there slow this guy down?
Yeah, I mean, maybe himself. He's had a little bit of an injury history over the course of his career, so maybe he's the only one that can slow himself down. But no, this guy's on a tear right now. Obviously, he's on pace for 60 home runs, and even if he reverts back to the pace he was on for the first 3 months, I think it comes out to he's on pace for about 55 home runs. So. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive when you consider that, it's only been done 8 times in Major League history, hit 60 home runs in a single season. Only 5 guys have done it. You look, and a lot of that came during the steroid era as well. So it's certainly impressive, especially this day and age, even with home runs being up a little bit across the league. But I'll say he won't quite get the 60. I think maybe like the 57 range. Sounds
That's
good.
Still pretty good. Hey,
yeah, not bad.
I'd settle for that. Now, interestingly enough, he reportedly cleared waivers, meaning he could be traded to any team in baseball over the next few weeks. I mean, is there a good chance that this happens?
I don't think it's going to happen. Okay. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Marlins are going through a sale right now, so I don't think you're going to see a move of that caliber. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I think you get that over the offseason if you do. Right now, it's just, he's kind of the main attraction in Miami, so it's hard to imagine he does get dealt. So I think it's something worth exploring for the Marlins in the offseason. Maybe they can push the reset button a little bit. His contract's backloaded. Might be a chance to get some young talent in there. So I'm not quite sure they have the pitching right now to maybe, catapult them to the next level in the NL East. Okay,
those are the hot takes that we were all expecting. I'm glad I built them up because you delivered, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome into Fantasyland. I'm Darren Hartwell, and we're hitting the stretch run of the fantasy baseball season. So now is the perfect time to take advantage of all your opponents going away on vacation and grab some of those studs on the waiver wire who are owned in under 50% of Yahoo leagues. With that, let's get right down to brass tacks. The first waiver wire pickup I like is White Sox pitcher Carlos Rodon. Rodon's 4+ ERA is nothing to sneeze at, but what he can give you is strikeouts. The big lefty has recorded 9 Ks or more in 3 of his last 4 starts and is averaging 10.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. The next guy on my list is Tigers catcher James McCann. There aren't too many quality hitting catchers out there, but McCann is hitting .355 since July 1st, and he launched a grand slam over the weekend to give him 11 homers on the season. McCann isn't exactly Buster Posey, but he's a pretty solid fill-in if you need the help. So if you're looking for catchers on the waiver wire, beggars can't be choosers. I'm going to stick in the AL Central with my third waiver wire ad, and that's Twins outfielder Eddie Rosario. Outfield is obviously a much deeper position than catcher, but Rosario's recent hot streak is getting too hard to ignore. He entered Tuesday with at least 1 RBI in 7 of his last 10 games, and now has scored 11 runs in his last 8 contests. Rosario is the perfect guy to give your team a quick boost in hits, runs, and RBIs if you're struggling in those categories down the stretch. Alright, that's all the advice I'm allowed to give today, so let's send it back up to Rachel and Sam for a look at the red-hot Red Sox.
And now I'm joined by Sam Galanis to talk about the Red Sox winning ways. And Sam, Chris Sale just continues to dominate for the Sox. Now, this guy is the AL Cy Young frontrunner at this point. Do you consider him to be a legit MVP contender?
Yeah, I think you have to consider him to be an MVP contender at this point because, you know, everyone has their opinions about whether or not pitchers should be the MVP since they only pitch every 5th day. But you look at the way the Red Sox have done this season and the fact that they've had a huge drop-off in their offense, but they're still in first place in the AL East with a pretty significant lead right now. You know, that's not anyone else but Chris Sale. He's having a huge impact on this team.
Let's talk about another guy on a hot streak right now. Rafael Devers has been amazing since being called up in late July. Do you think his hot streak will continue?
Well, it's one of those things that you can't really predict how long his hot streak is going to last. It'll definitely end at some point. He'll reach wherever he's supposed to reach. He's not going to be hitting home runs every single game the way he's been doing now, but I don't think at this point there's any reason to believe there'll be a significant drop-off, but it will end at some point.
Okay, and this is a player that Red Sox fans love. Andrew Benintendi, this guy is hot right now. Meanwhile, Aaron Judge of the Yankees, he's in a bit of a slump. So if you had to look into the future, 10 years down the road, if you had to pick one of these outfielders, which one would you choose?
I think for the long-term guy, and I'm not just saying this to appease Red Sox fans, I think you would pick Andrew Benintendi. He has a higher ceiling. He has a more likely chance of being a 5-tool player, whereas as amazing as Aaron Judge is, he's a big guy, so he can't run the bases as well as Andrew Benintendi can. That can slow him down in the outfield too when it comes to making, you know, really athletic plays. So over time, I think Benintendi has the higher ceiling, as impressive as Judge's power numbers are.
Okay, well, they're a winning, and Sox fans, they're a liking.
MLB Players Weekend, August 25th through the 27th. In case you guys haven't heard about it, most of the teams and players in baseball are wearing special jerseys that are inspired by youth league teams. Most of the players are going to have nicknames on the back of their jerseys. In addition to that, there's going to be a lot of players that have special custom socks, hats, arm sleeves, all kinds of weird gear. Pretty, you know, different idea for the MLB, which is typically, you know, doesn't have a ton of personality. Do you like MLB Players Weekend?
I do. I do. I think it's a great idea. I mean,
why?
Well, I was getting to that, Dakota. My goodness. You know, it's because with baseball, the old Bryce Harper saying, "Make baseball fun again," right? I mean, that's such a huge part of baseball right now. Why it's losing so much interest amongst younger fans. And this is something that, even though it's just small, it's just one weekend, we're talking about it. There's buzz about it. People are, you know, tweeting about the jerseys and the nicknames.
Baseball's biggest problem is the pace of play and the actual product on the field. Now, in order for it to get back into the national conversation of, you know, some of the most buzzed about sports, you know, things like this that can improve merch sales, that can add a little bit more excitement to the game, bring young viewers in, I think is a good thing. But ultimately, I'm not sure how much it moves the needle in terms of, you know, bringing baseball back into, you know, the living room conversation of being one of the most popular sports in the country. So what everybody's really talking about here is the nicknames. And there are some good ones, and there are a lot of really terrible ones.
And I think the one that really stands out, obviously, is got to be the future of baseball, Aaron Judge, who's going with All Rise. I'm sorry, Boston. I know, you know, at Cam_McDonough, tweet me how you feel. But I got to go with Mr. Judge there.
Quick rundown of my favorite nicknames that you'll see. MLB Players Weekend. Yoan Moncada, Yo-Yo. It's not a bad one. It's not great, but it's all right. The Cincinnati Reds, Tim Adelman. I will confess, I don't know who Tim Adelman is.
I don't either.
Care who Tim Adelman is.
I'm sure he's a lovely person. I don't know.
He's going by the microwave.
Okay.
I'm sure it's a good explanation for it, but I don't know what it is, but it sounds funny. One of the better ones is the Tampa Bay Rays, Chin Wei Hu. His jersey will just have Hu. So yeah, that's MLB Players Weekend. I know we're both looking forward to it. And yeah.
I'll be a Kenny Chesney.
Now we're back here with Ricky Doyle. Ricky, we just couldn't get rid of you.
Nope, couldn't get enough of me. I appreciate it. I'm glad. I thought I was going to get thrown out of the studio, but
somehow you snuck your way back in here,
survived.
and we have MLB Rapid Fire questions for you, sir. So at this point in the season, there's essentially 9 teams out there competing for or in contention for 2 AL wildcard spots. Who are your 2 picks? Who gets them?
Yeah, pretty wild, huh? As advertised, go figure. Yeah, so as you mentioned, it's kind of wide open right now. I think the Yankees have a little bit of a stranglehold on that #1 spot, so I expect them to get in. The #2 spot, though, it's where things are going to get a little interesting. I'm still leaning towards the Kansas City Royals. I think that they got one more run in them. I don't know if they'll get past the wild card game, even if they secure that spot, but I think they just got a lot of guys with experience. I like the Angels as well, but I'm not sure their pitching holds up. Got questions about the Royals pitching too, but I think it's slightly better than the Angels. So I give the nod to KC.
Okay, things a little more clear-cut in the National League at this point. The Rockies and Diamondbacks have an inside track for those 2 spots. Now, which team would you take right now in just a 1-game playoff?
Yeah, give me the Snakes. Take the D-backs. Mostly that stems from the fact that, if they are in a 1-game playoff, presumably you're going to throw out your best pitcher if everything lines up, and right now it should because they are both have stranglehold on those 2 positions. We'll see where the game ends up being played. That could be an issue there, but I don't know. I like the Diamondbacks. I like Zach Greinke in a 1-game playoff. So better than anything the Rockies can throw out there.
Okay, sticking with the National League, the NL Central is the tightest divisional race in baseball at this point. Who comes out on top?
I'm sticking with the Cubs. I know it's been kind of an up and down season for them. They had a little bit of a World Series hangover in the early going, but I think they're getting on track a little bit here. I like the Jose Quintana pickup. I know the Cardinals have been playing out of their minds lately, but I'm not quite sure that offense is sustainable, and I like the pitching of the Cubs to hold up. So I'm going to say they take it down in the division.
Okay, my next question for you. Which current division leader is most prone to an early playoff exit? You have to be mean right here.
Yeah, it just kind of pains me to say because I've liked them all season. I liked them before the season. The Houston Astros looking pretty vulnerable right now, and it all stems from that starting pitching. I think they're probably going to go as far as Dallas Keuchel can take him because, he's the clear-cut #1 there, but he's also had some injury issues. So they just seem like an upset waiting to happen, as much as it pains me to say. I'm a little scared about the Red Sox. I don't know if that's going to go well locally, but
wow.
Yeah, it's just it's not really it's so much an indictment on them. It's just the fact that the Indians, if they end up playing the Indians look like kind of a nightmare matchup right now. But I'll stick with Houston. I think Houston's an upset waiting to happen.
This is a Quincy, Massachusetts guy, by the way.
Yeah, that's going to get me in some trouble.
So yeah. Well, maybe it will help you out. So, he's a Red Sox.
Yeah, so I'll stick with the Astros.
Born in this. Okay. So, Ricky, odds the Dodgers reach 116 wins, tying
a lot of wins.
The all-time single-season mark.
I would give it like a 16.4%.
Where did you come up with that number? By the way?
See, I don't know. I don't think they're gonna reach that mark right now. I think they're on pace for about 115. So I guess it's doable, but it's one of these things where you just feel like they have the division locked up. So over the last couple of weeks, you can kind of rest some guys, pick your spots. I think just inherently that's going to lead to more losses than if they were going full throttle. So I'm not quite sure they'll get to the 116, but hey, it's not bad if you can slack off a little bit and still get about 110, 111, 112 wins. So
16.4. That's not too bad. 20% is kind of too convincing, and then 15%.
I'm leaving the door open a little bit.
Right in the middle.
You know what I mean? I'm not completely writing it off.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to thank you very much for tuning in. We will see you next time on The Dish.